Alright guys, so about 10 years ago, I bought a Wen Track Saw. I used it 4 times. The switch fried, the motor then started smoking everywhere, and my entire basement was filled with smoke. And ever since then, I have stayed far away from Wen tools, but that was a decade ago, and I want a track saw. So I went online looking for track saws. I saw some really good reviews on this bad boy right here. So I bought one. Now, what's the difference between those reviews that I watched and this review? Well, those reviews that I watch are from craftsmen who have Festool tools also. They've been using track saws a long time. They know good quality, and they gave this a pretty good review, but I've never used one. I've never even seen one. Like, this is the closest I've ever been to seeing a real track saw. So I went on, I bought the saw, I bought the clamps, because some guy on Amazon on the review said you probably want the clamps. So I bought the clamps, and then sneakily behind me, I also bought the 100-inch track. So we're going to open this up, put this together, and see, is this worth it? Or should I just go back to using a 2x4 and some clamps? First thing I'm going to open up is the clamps, because it's really kind of the least exciting one to open up. Again, I bought all this off of Amazon. I think everything was like $180 or something like that. Very, very budget friendly. I like the color of the Wen tools. I like the Halloween thing going on here. Alright, they're clamps. They're clamps. They should be fine for what I'm guessing what this is going to be. Let's open up the track next. Alright. Now in this video I'm probably going to use a lot of wrong terminology. There's going to be a lot of things that I don't know. If you want more technical details and technicality stuff for people who have some experience, you can go watch some other real YouTubers with their experiences on this. I'm going to have to clean that up later. Okay, got these little end caps. I'm guessing that's to keep it together. Okay, good. I thought there was only one. I was going to be really upset for a second. It smells good. So that's good. I like this, that you can use these to keep that together. That's pretty handy. But now how do you put it together? Probably this giant thing right here. It feels like pretty good quality. It's a little flimsy, but obviously, you know, that's kind of is what it is there. The foam on the back is supposed to help hold it in place. It actually does work pretty well holding that in place. Let's get the saw out now. The saw itself. I did go with corded. I didn't go cordless because I didn't want to get on another battery platform because that just sounds like a rabbit hole you'd go down. So there is that option. I don't know how well that is. I haven't seen any reviews on that battery one. Smells like a new tool. Alright, it's got some weight to it. Up there. Up there. It does come with a blade. So this feels like something I might actually have to figure out how to use before I tell you guys how to use it. Ah! Wait, okay. So you push the tap button to make the blade purge in. Alright. It feels like decent. Oh, there's some wiggle room there. Sorry. It feels pretty decent. Alright, well, I'm going to try getting this thing set up and see if I can learn anything about it. Alright, so it took me about 5 minutes to put the track together and figure out what I was doing, which doesn't seem that bad. Again, I've never used a track saw. I've got this thing set on some 3/4 OSB. I was able to figure out how to set the depth of the blade, which was pretty easy. So far, without any knowledge on how to use this, it was a pretty easy setup, I think. We'll see how this first cut goes. I think there's nothing left to do, but let's cut this thing and we'll see how it went, I guess. Get it? When? Sorry. Alright. Alright, so there's this black rubber thing on the side. I think you're supposed to cut that because I did. It's a little more stiff to push through than I thought it would be. But it looks straight. So there is this anti-kickback feature on there, so you can't pull the saw back once you start going forward. There's some lever on the side I think you have to Yeah, you have to push that lever to be able to get it out of there. Let's test to see how, I like the fact that you can sit it flat. I've never had that type of saw, that's pretty sweet. Let's test the straightness of this thing. Beautiful. I know you can't see it, but beautiful. That looks pretty dead nut straight. Let me use my good eye. That looks pretty straight. That's pretty sweet. All right. I want to try it without using the clamps because I had the clamps set. I'm going to do a measurement. I'm actually going to try to do a real cut this time. The last time I was just trying to use the saw for the first time. All right, so I got this thing set on this side. That side should be straight now, so now we should be good. I don't have the clamps on it. Again, I want to see how that goes. I just interrupt my past self for a little bit. So I actually filmed this video a few weeks ago, and since then I did a build for a client. I will flash it on the screen right now so you can see it. And as you can see, that build has all of these little angles and everything like that. And I cut all of that boards using this track saw. The boards were too wide to run over on the miter saw, so I had to use the track saw. Now, if you're wondering why I'm going to watch the rest of this video, and if you're telling me how awesome this saw is because later on in the video I'm going to tell you I bought one more thing that took this saw to the next level. But if you don't want to care about that, buy this saw. Absolutely fantastic. I cannot recommend it enough. But now I'm going to send you back to the past me who's trying to figure out if this saw is awesome. I'm not locked on the saw all the way, on the track all the way. I'm moving around. So that's no reflection on them. That's a reflection on me. I will say I was worried about feeling the transition between the two pieces because it doesn't look the greatest. And I'll show you how I linked them together in a second. I'm going to I'll do this part and then we'll kind of talk about how I set this thing up. So that wasn't even like locked in, but it looks as straight as the other one did. That looks pretty straight. Not bad. So I didn't use the clamps on that, and I didn't feel a difference between having the clamps and not having the clamps. I do think the clamps are going to be worth it because they were like $20. So I would use the clamps a lot, but apparently you don't really need to. And I'm also going to have to get an adapter to run my dust collector because this thing is crazy. It looks like the dust collector should work really well because all the dust seems to come out of the dust port. I'll cut one more thing, and then we'll talk about some more stuff. Alright, so I got some 1/4 inch OSB now. I know a lot of OSB, kind of what I have in the shop. But this side looks like I cut it with a blindfold on. So what I'm going to do is I want to throw this on here. And then we're just going to toss it on, throw it on there. I got 2 marks, see if I can rip a straight line. That did feel like it binded right at that seam. Okay, so there's the seam. And you're going... hit that seam and it like catches now. You can, if you're going at a good speed, you get right through it. If you're, what am I doing different? Yeah, if you go slow, it just kind of plows it and catches right on that seam. Alright, let's clean that seam out. Alright, let's drag her back. Alright, seam right there on video. Okay. Still binds up a little bit. That's what I figured would happen. But if you hold it, it takes it right off. It's really hard to try to film and hold this at the same time. But it's straight. It's straight. Okay, so after reading the instructions, I learned a couple of things here and there. So I'm going to do one more cut. Now I'm going to cut some 1.5 inch material. It's just a 2x8. I'm normally going to use this for breaking down plywood sheets, but in case I ever do a slab or something, I want to make sure that this will handle the bigger, thicker load. So we're going to drop it back on. Now I learned how to actually use these knobs. Let's do it. Alright, that got bound up again right at that transition point. But but probably because I had to go a lot slower. But I also have it bowing down, and that could be actually part of my problem too, because it's not a full piece here. But it cut the 2x. It did cut it. It didn't like it, but it did it. I don't think I would do that like a ton. And I did not use the clamps on this either. According to the person on Amazon, they said that you need the clamps. I really don't think you need the clamps. This thing seems to be cutting pretty sweet without the clamps. Let's talk a little more of the details on this thing, but what I've just learned from my experiences. Okay, so let's talk about the track. The track, 100 inches, gonna be great for breaking down long sheets, especially if you have a small shop like I do. So let's show you how you break this down from the 100 inches down to the 50 inches, which I figured out on my own without the instructions. The instructions do tell you. Now, and if you remember earlier in the video, I told you guys I would tell you what you need to buy next. The additional thing that I bought, which made this saw so much better, and that is this thing right here. As you can see, it is mounted. It is a right angle guide for a track saw. All I did was look it up on Amazon. I got it for, I think it was like 18 or 20 bucks. And all it does is it just snaps right onto your track. It's got these two little grooves in there. Slide it on like so, and then set your latch. And you perfect right angle. This thing takes this thing to a whole new level because now you're cutting perfectly straight right angle cuts. I cannot stress to you how awesome I think this saw really is and how great it is for the value. If money is tight and you can't afford the whole thing, drop the clamps, get this. Now I'm gonna send you back to my previous self. Before we do that though, there is this rubber sleeve piece on the back here. It said to remove it for some stupid reason. I don't know why. I just cut right through it. Yeah, so there's this black bar in here with 4 Allen heads. There's one here, and then there's one here. So to separate your track, you loosen those, and that's it. Not bad to separate. Again, I don't think you need the clamps really, because it's pretty, that foam pad that's right here. The track itself, so it's aluminum, it's nice. I like the holes there, so therefore you can hang it on the wall. It came with those end cap pieces for using it for storage. To use your clamp is super easy. There's a slot right here. You put the head, locks right in there, and then that can slide all the way down. Doesn't really bind up. It's clamps. I would get the clamps just to be on the safe side because they're pretty cheap, but I don't think you really need them. But yeah, track feels good. Again, I don't know what I'm comparing to because this is the only one I've used. Let's talk about the saw and what I've learned. Now your piece de resistance, the heartbeat of the project, the saw. Here's what I have learned, because there was some weirdness that I didn't understand. So you can see you got these knobs here, these 2 knobs here, and these 2 knobs here. This knob and this knob are for apparently a fine adjustment. If you need to adjust, I think, the tension on the track. I might just take them off because they get kind of confusing with all 4 knobs right there. In my opinion, I'm also kind of an idiot. So this front knob right here, sorry, the back knob right here, that's your back, that's also your anti-kickback. When you twist the knob, you can see that oblong shape does it. You need that to drop on. Now the front knob, and this is the one that I had the problem with, if you spin the knob, it doesn't do anything, right? You actually have to lift the knob and then spin, and that locks the front onto the track. You have to lift it. I didn't realize that at first. I was an idiot. It does work just like that, and it locks it right on the track. Now this thing does have the ability to bevel, which is right here. I didn't do that, but I'm going to assume it's going to be the same as everything else because the saw performed the way everyone else said it would. You have 3 modes up here. I read about those. I read so you guys could learn this, so you didn't have to. So there's 3 modes up here. There's a scribe mode, a full plunge mode, and then a change your blade mode. So I'm guessing the change your blade mode must just lock it. I cut through 1.5 inch material without much of a problem. I've never had a plunge saw again, so this is kind of cool. But now let's talk just the quality of the feel of the saw. So the saw feels like a good saw. I've used cheaper saws. I don't use a lot of expensive tools, so this feels pretty good. This has got like a rubberized coating on it, so you can get a good grip on it. There wasn't a lot of play. You know what? Let's put it on the track. Let's just put it on the track and see. drop it right onto the track. You can drop the front on. The back, you have to use that anti-kick feature, and that springs loads that, and this you just pull, twist, now you're locked on. It wiggles a little bit, but when you're pushing for, it doesn't wiggle, the back doesn't wiggle this way, the front will wiggle this way, but when you're sawing, you're going to be pushing this way anyway, so yeah, there's not a lot of play on it. That's pretty sweet. So the saw itself seems pretty useful. The track, where it bounces between the two, I think if need be, I can just file just a little bit, and then I think we'll be smooth sailing. I didn't have any problems at first, and then as I used it a few times, there seemed to be an issue with that there. So keep that in mind. But if you're clamped down, you should be, and you're using and not going through really thick material. Like when I went through the 3/4 OSB, you can go fast enough that little deviation doesn't bum you down at all. Yeah, so this saw, I honestly would highly recommend you get one. Very happy with this. I think this is going to be incredible. If you have a small shop like I do, and you want to break these materials down very quickly, this is definitely going to be the saw for you. I'm going to figure out a way to hook up the dust collection because this thing spits some dust, which means that in theory, your dust collection should work very well on it. So that was my review on the Wen Track Saw. What do you guys think? I think you should go buy one. See you in the next video.